The District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza. Your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. I know you're excited. It's Friday and you're thinking, what is that Joel Wilson thing? Friday? Well, all the best to our good friend Joel. We miss him. Prayers and all the best. Hey, it's an open line for a couple of minutes, 1:30, but for an hour prior, so 12:30 to 1:30. We're supposed to have a good discussion on the census. I'm waiting for that to unfold. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. I'm excited to be able to talk, economics and statistics, and in particular, our census. It was an excellent press briefing. The Premier and the Honorable Deputy Premier were in attendance. They were sharing with us the wonderful work at the ESO and collecting the census data. So as we get into that discussion, it's good that we can have timely information collected in a competent way, presented in a credible format, and helping us to make informed decisions, both as the public sector and the private. So as we welcome the Honorable Deputy Premier, Mr. Good afternoon to you. So how are you today?
Good afternoon, Sterling. It's actually quite quick. I thought I'd arrive early, but I realized it was threw me on the spot. But no, it's fine. It's
because you hand someone, you can take it, yeah.
It's great to be here and everything. I really am. This is exciting stuff, and I really want to start off by thanking the hundreds of people who were involved in making the report possible, and at the same time also thank the thousands of residents who opened their doors and welcome people in to provide this information. Mm-hmm. As you may recall, when we did this last October, we didn't have the environment or the climate that we have now in terms of COVID, so we're still under some level of restrictions. Mm-hmm. But people recognize the value of the information and realize that as a government and as decision makers, whether public or private sector, we need information to make informed decisions. So we're really, really grateful that many of them actually opened their doors and provided information, and it's useful, very useful.
This is where it helps us both as policymakers and politicians, but the private sector, entrepreneurs, people looking at expanding, people looking at taking on different projects. Informed information. As we get into it, could we just ask, just a general overview, speak to the importance of what information we collected, but we collected and disseminated in a timely way as we crunch the numbers and look at the different sort of aspects of it. How does that help a government to make informed decisions?
Well, first of all, you start with the basic thing, the population count. Mm-hmm. You need to have an idea of exactly how many people were on island. You may recall one of the first disagreements, I could probably say that the government had with many of the critics was the population number that we were using for the for the vaccination drive. Yeah. I remember one particular MP on the opposition bench is getting up and saying that if the population was 71,000, he would he'd buy all of us lunch. Mm-hmm. So if he's listening, I'm open to let him know that we're looking to get the lunch.
This visa somewhere good, right?
Yeah. No, when we came in, and you can. when we look at the traffic and listen to the people in the supermarkets, and you know what I mean, in terms of the retailers, in terms of the volumes and everything, we knew the population wasn't 66. But to credit to the Economic and Statistics Office, they did give a range of numbers. Speaking of them, the director and the financial secretary that's arrived, they did give a range in terms of where the population would have been. And on the high end, to their credit, they did say there's a possibility that the population could have been 71,000. And out of an abundance of caution, we decided to go with the 71,000 based on, we look at traffic levels, we look at, going back again from information from retailers, we look at imports and everything else. And we knew at that point it was more than high end. And sure enough, we used a 71,000 number. You may want to close back that door, FS. We used a 71,000 number, and sure enough, the census actually confirmed that we actually did use the right number. And again, like I said, when it comes down to the safety and security of our people, that is one of the things that we'll always work on out of an abundance of caution. But in terms of the importance, again, I mean, the challenge for us is that unlike other countries that have a very strong tax regime where you have a lot of information based on taxes that people file and so forth, we don't have that. So the census and even the labor force surveys and the different reports that the Economic and Statistics Office prepare on a quarterly and annual basis is what really drives it. And again, we want to thank the many corporations and entities that actually provide this information freely. And again, the stuff that is provided to the ESO is also exempt from the FOI law. So it's not as if though someone is going to go back and check to see who said what. So all that is exempt. So it is very critical for us to actually have this information. So it's good to have the population count. But one of the things that was also helpful for us is even on the employment side to see exactly where the growth is in terms of jobs between last census and this census, looking at what those jobs are actually paying compared again to the last census, kind of have an idea, where we are. So now that we have this information, two things that have come out of it is that one, we last cabinet approved the committee to review the point system. So now that committee, has a very solid base in which to start from, because we know the census information. And then next week we're actually putting together we have already selected the committee, just need to get cabinet approval now for the minimum wage advisory committee also. So that's also coming up. And now we have a lot of this detailed information. So we're kind of waiting on this information to come in before we said, okay, let's make this activation, because what you want is a committee also working with the latest information there is, and not just pretty much speculations or estimations or anything like that.
Informed data.
Yeah.
All right. So joining the Honorable Deputy Premier, Zone of Financial Secretary, Mr. Ken Jefferson, and the head of the Economics and Statistics Office, Mr. Adolphus Leto. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And as Honorable Deputy Premier shared, it's live radio. We had you initially set for 12:30, but being a gentleman who value time, Honorable Deputy Premier, he walked in and I say, you're so comfortable in the studio, let's just jump right into it. So he put on his fins and his goggles and he dove in, but it was a shallow end. So hope he didn't get bruised too much. But now we do have the camera, so Miss Susan is going to figure this out. We're going to pause and take a break, we shuffle, see if I can order some chocolate. What do you like? Okay, I'll share it. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Superior Auto is pleased to announce the grand reopening of the new Superior Auto Apprenticeship Center on Seymour Drive. New opportunities, new beginnings, a new home for Caymanian youth seeking career training and certification in high-demand trades such as automotive repair, AC, refrigeration, and so much more. Put the value in your pocket. Fun fact, the average hourly rate for a tradesman can be 4.5 times the minimum wage. The Superior Auto Apprenticeship Center is a not-for-profit program. Contact 949-9570 or 525-9571 to apply today. The Superior Auto Apprenticeship Center, successfully building the next generation of hardworking Caymanians since 2010.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Did you know that you must discard fresh fruits and vegetables, meats, foods in canisters, dented, leaking, or rusting cans after they have come in contact with floodwater? For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks very much for this opportunity to talk about the census data. We have the Honorable Deputy Premier, Honorable Financial Secretary, and the Head of the Economics and Statistics Office joining us. And Honorable Deputy Premier, as you were sharing, it is good to have information that is timely, that the public feels not just the competence in the collection, but the confidentiality that went in that collection. And as we put the information in the public domain, how it helps us to understand, well, where is our country? And I think there have been a number of new additions to the census data that will help us relative to agriculture, to different things. And maybe as we go on, not just in 2 decades, but perhaps in 2 years, we'll see the importance of how we can build on that information.
Now, one of the things, and at a press conference, I said it, and I just want to publicly say it again to thank the director and his team. When this government came in, one of the things that we wanted to do was pretty much develop the HDI score for Cayman, the Human Development Index. If you were to look at it internationally, they would just lump us in with the same score as the UK. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to see exactly where we were in that regard. And, I mean, as you look at the HDI, one of the things, for example, that the director did make some last-minute changes to the census questionnaire that would have given us some of that information, and for that we're quite grateful. And again, we also want to thank the many people who actually provide this information freely and accurately as best as they could. But we wanted to say exactly where we were in our development. And so you look at the HDI, for example, I mean, it basically asks 3 basic questions. Do you have a decent standard of living? Do you have access to knowledge? Do you have, can you expect a long and healthy life? So there are certain metrics that we want to look at. So like the literacy rate, for example, I think it came back at 98.6%. That is above the global average of around 86-87%. And it's also above the Latin American Caribbean average of roughly around 95%. So on the literacy side, we're fine. One of the things that the HDI also look at is not just the number of years of schooling, but also expected years of schooling. So in terms of what it is a person can expect or people can expect within a country. So when you see we put things in our strategic policy statement, like making ICCI and UCCI free, part of that is actually to increase our score in that regard, where people can say, at a minimum, you can get up to at least a bachelor's or master's degree that you should be expected to get in the Cayman Islands with government support. Those are the kind of things that we want to get to, because at the end of the day, we are still a service-based economy, and our biggest investment, our greatest asset is still our people. So we don't see education as an expense, but rather an investment. And that is why one, it is the first broad outcome number 1 for the government in terms of education. Of course, broad outcome number 2 is deals with health care. But that investment in our people is paramount to this government, and that is pretty much where most of the resources went to. So, as you can see, one of the first things, for example, even free meals in school, is that we realize that in some cases, parents weren't sending their kids to school for lack of lunch money. something as basic as that. You know, I mean, we're like, you know what? I mean, we can't. You can't expect to run a first world country like that, where people, something as basic as not being able, a child not going to school because of lack of lunch money. You know, parents not having that. You know, we wanted to do away with that, and it's pretty much the same thing also. You know, as we try our best to start looking, and again, it came back to the whole idea of food security. You know, of asking people, you know, have you ever within the last 4 weeks prior to the census, you know, not been able to eat something? And again, no. This has kind of prompted us, okay, now that we always recognize it was an issue, but then the question is now what it is that we can put in place. So some countries have something you call like Samaritan laws, where if you help somebody or you donate something, because a lot of entities would love to help, but at the same time too, they need to be protected that, you know, you're helping somebody, you give them food, next thing they get food poison or something, God forbid, then they want to turn on being sued. So we need to find a balance there, because as you look at things like gross national happiness, which became popular in 2011 from Bhutan starting it. And you look at the 6 factors that people look at in terms of gross national happiness. They're looking at one, like in terms of opportunities, you know, people want to make sure opportunities. But actually the first one that's weighted on that is social support, you know, having someone to count on. The second one, you know, are opportunities available for the people. But the third one on that list is actually generosity. Is people actually like to give. People enjoy giving back. You know what I mean? The fourth one on that, I think, is trust in government. The fifth one is long and healthy life. And the sixth one is real GDP per capita. So we can start looking at those things in pretty much in that order. I may have 5 and 6 mixed up a little bit, but I know the top 4 are correct. The third one on that is generosity. People giving back. You know what I mean? And when you look at people, I mean, generally in Cayman, I mean, we have a history, we have a reputation of always being kind, giving back and everything else, and people enjoy doing that. It makes them feel good about themselves. But then the question is, do we have enough programs in place? And if so forth, if we do have the programs in place, do we also have the protection in place that if someone is even giving back and something happens, at least they're somewhat protected? So you want to create an environment where people can give back without worrying. I mean, I know a friend of mine who used to always, you know, pick up people and give people a ride. And he says, you know, Chris, I can't do that anymore because I fear COVID. You know, before he doesn't know if the person has COVID. And you can see where these things have actually changed people's behavior. So you have to find him now. I feel bad for him because he used to enjoy it. Sometimes I think he would drive to town for no reason at all except just to give people along the way a ride. You know what I mean? And now he has lost that. The question is, how can I now find something else for him to do to feel good? And he used to feel good about it. If rain was falling, he would drive to like the top of Northward, just knowing that people are stuck at the top of Northward, the bus don't come inside Northward, just to give them a ride in. You know, that's the kind of stuff he used to do. Now he's afraid to do that. The question is, what now can we challenge our energy to do?
Right. And I'm glad you referenced that as we, you know bring the Honorable Financial Secretary together with the Director ESO into this discussion. When I was looking at the data, the financial data is important, but I was looking at more of the qualitative aspects, and the HDI was important. Now, maybe for clarity, I wrote down Happiness Index, Quality of Life Index, and the HDI. Are they all synonymous? Are they different? Because you see some jurisdictions that, you know, they're the happiest place to live and work and the like. Perhaps, Director, from your perspective, HDI, Quality of Life Index, Happiness Index, all one and the same? Or what's the difference?
Well, I think from the HDI standpoint, it's an improvement or a zoning in terms of the HDI. And that drive the happiness indicator, because while the HDI focus a lot on educational attainment as literacy, as standard of living, it's really difficult to measure some of the quality indices, and that's where the happiness indicators comes in, because it focuses more on the psychological aspect of the how a person feel rather than just a calculation.
It's qualitative as more as quantitative. Right. Financial Secretary, sir, welcome, and please join us in the discussion, man. I mean, we won't joke and jest about what proceeded during the break, but it's a young man in hand.
Yeah, no problem, Mr. Eubanks. It's certainly good to be back on the in Radio Cayman studio for. I've been away for quite some time, so it certainly feels good to be back. I would say that our purpose here is at least threefold. We certainly want to say thanks to the public for helping the government get a very important document put together. It was done during, as we all know, a COVID environment from October last year straight through to January this year. We know that people were understandably nervous about letting what would have been strangers into their homes for 20 minutes at a time to complete the census. So we're very appreciative that that took place, and without the cooperation, the help of the public, we would not have a 361-page document that is on the ESO website, so they can go and find it there, www.eso.ky. There's something in there for everyone. So you don't have to look at the entire document. You can look at any one of the 12 main sections in the document, ranging from the usual expected population detail all the way down to agriculture and so forth. So there's something in there for everyone. So we wanted to say thanks. I'm sure in the course of the hour or so, or however long it's extended,
as you
we're going to give some main highlights in the document, and then of course the other reason or the purpose would be to take in the questions that the public may have. But it certainly is a document that is to be commended and for the public to look at, because it does contain a lot of very useful information about diseases and health issues that are prevalent here in the Cayman Islands. Like I said, it's really something for everyone to take a look at.
Now, hopefully, and I'll be guided with through you to say this publicly, I hope people won't see it as a 2-pound document or 361 pages, or that is economics and statistics, it's numbers, but look at it as something that is instructive, informative, something that can guide us. Directly from that perspective, whether it's a survey or it's a research paper or the like, with the greatest of respect, we've collected information, we had great participation. I know people who were saying to the enumerators, make sure you come to me. They wanted to provide information. Respectfully, to what extent we have confidence in not just the collection aspect, the training has been phenomenal, but those who provide information was accurate in all of the process, and what sort of confidence interval we have?
Okay, thank you for that question. I'd like the FS and the Minister of Finance to extend my thanks to the public and for the staff of the ESO, because they did a lot of work during this period. Also the enumerators. They went through a pandemic gathering this data for us. And more importantly, the households. Because some of them welcomed them in the home, others stood outside and gave that data. Now, in terms of designing the question, in terms of the quality, the question is designed such that we will pull the quality of the survey from different questions. So a question may seem redundant on the survey, but is intended to cross-check other answers that's given. Also, we had several levels of supervision. So we had an enumerator, which is the basic level of data collection. Then that person had a supervisor. So we will then look at the data, and what we know at the ESO and the persons who deal with data normally, the data should tell a story. So when we go through the data, we look for that story. And once that story in some way is disjointed, then we go back to the household. And we may re-interview and ask certain questions. At least 10 of the questions, it must be consistent. So we look for the consistencies, and the quality, therefore, is not compromised, because beyond the supervisor level, we had area coordinators who also review that data again before it reached into the ESO servers.
One of the things in the Honourable Minister referenced it right at the outset, and with the greatest of deference, again, was the first thing I had on my list in terms of, hopefully we get to it, the Minister. On the response, and you mentioned it too, sir, during the press briefing, the 600 plus households that said we didn't have anything to eat, the 700 plus, I think, that said didn't respond. I wonder if that is something we can drill down further at some point, either here or other points, from the perspective of the demographics. We got the number, but do we know?
We know where they're located. We know the district in which they're located also. And like I said, and I'm sure at the database level, they can probably drill a little bit more. But at the end of the day, this is still people's personal information. And one of the things that we're more concerned about is, especially at a national level, is recognize that there is an issue, then let's just fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we have, and not to be critical of previous, I mean, you work with what you have, but we have spent a lot of time trying to fix issues at an individual level as opposed to at a national level. And like I said, one of the things that we want to recognize, and I've been to restaurants late where people are like, you're the last one to order, you order X amount, they're like, we're getting ready to close down, this food is not good to us anyway, they just load you up anyway. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons why. If it's some restaurants, you
is that what it is?
Right. Some restaurants you can time right that just before they close down, they will just, we give you all of this that's left. Because
see, I have the opposite way. I go there, they say you're all done. So you come there before me.
It's a science. It's a science, my friend. It's a science. You know what I mean? But recognizing, that because in some places like France, for example, you have organizations that go around to restaurants while they're closing down and literally pick up the food and deliver it to families who actually need. Like I said, we do recognize that there are challenges here. But one of the things that my colleagues and I have always said is that Cayman is blessed in terms of resources. But at the end of the day, we're not going to sit back and tell you that we're going to have a Cayman where everyone is rich. What I can say is that we can have a Cayman where nobody needs to be poor, nobody needs to be struggling. I mean, something as basic as food, clothing, and shelter. These are things that we should be in a position to provide for people. So yes, we know exactly the districts where these issues are. You know what I mean? And ironically, you have good programs already like Meals on Wheels. So part of our job now is to kind of, and recognizing some of our people who are struggling sometimes would actually keep that to themselves. Because one of the main things that we also want to focus on now too is on the dignity gap. When we were discussing the school lunch program, just to kind of give an idea in terms of the thought process that went into it. There were some people who wanted it to be on a needs basis. We were getting representation alongside people. Well, people who can afford it is going to be, their kids going to be, and we're like, you know what? I'm not going to go through the process now of creating another system within the school or the class system between those who can afford to have lunch, those who can't afford to have lunch. We're not doing that. We're giving it to everybody because that dignity of our people is actually very important. Will it end up costing us more than we should have? Yes. But you know what? From a very early age, at those formative years of our kids, we're putting everybody on an equal footing.
It takes away stigma. It equalizes everybody.
Exactly. And that is pretty much what it is that we're looking for. Equal opportunities. We're not looking to guarantee equal outcomes. But like I said, the main thing is that we already have programs and organizations in place that want to do this. And our job now, I can say to them, you know what? Based on the data, we know in these districts, these are issues, and now we can say to the Meals on Wheels folks, can you make an extra drive in these districts for us because we know it's there.
I think as FS jumps in, it just reminds me of what I think Denmark is facing now with their how they put their ghetto policy. Right? You may have a good intent, but if you present it in a certain way, you just raise them under different guise. Honorable FS?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Mr. Banks. I just wanted to make kind of disconnected with what has just been said, which was very good. Just a point of detail about earlier on, you were asking about the reliability of the data and how good it was and so forth. So the best way of me illustrating the point I'm about to make would be to say that the total population estimate is 71,432, and of that, we're estimating that the non-institutional population, as it's referred to, meaning persons not in prison, persons not in retirement homes, but people in their homes, their apartments, their condos, and so forth. That number was 71,105, and the persons in the institutional population in prisons and so forth were 327 persons, for a total of 71,432 persons was the estimated population. In terms of getting into detail, so for someone who's out there that's a geek,
thanks so much.
Right. So when we look at early on in the census, we see that the non-institutional population is stated at 71,105. The male element of that is said to be 35,984, and the females are 35,058 persons. and you add the two together, the male and female, and you don't get back to the 71,105. So, someone could say it's unreliable and so forth. But the general answer to discrepancies, very minor discrepancies like that, is that a very small number of the persons surveyed and helping us on the census did not actually specify, whether they were male, female, whether they were employed, unemployed. So there is a very small element of the census information where the person surveyed did not specify an answer to the question, and you may get some small differences there, but it's not going to question. It should not question the reliability of the data.
Okay, just respectfully, let's take this quick break. We'll come back and continue the discussion. 1 o'clock we'll do the break, and then we have our uninterrupted discussion. That's what Susan says anyway. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Beyond Basics Medical, leaders in laser and skin care of the Cayman Islands, providing advanced technology in skin, body, and hair, offering laser hair removal, vaginal tightening, threading, laser wrinkle reduction, hair loss restoration, hydrofacials, body and face slimming, vein therapy, laser tone correction, microneedling, high-frequency dermaplaning, medical peels, chirotherapy, skin tag wart removal, and laser scar revision. Long-term and significant transformations and results for multiple concerns starts with contacting Beyond Basics Medical. Call us at 916-SKIN. Visit us on the 3rd floor of the Tomlinson Building above Tomlinson Furniture, or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Beyond Basics Laser.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
From food to construction materials to office supplies, chances are a truck brought it to you. Superior Auto honors the value that the trucking community brings to these islands. Reliable, quality-trained technicians who value your time and aim to get your trucks back in service so you can be continued to be of service to your customers. Specializing in complete Isuzu, Hino, and other models of delivery box trucks and its repairs, including computer diagnostics, mechanical, and body repair. Superior Auto, 525-9571 or 949-9570. Keep on trucking with Superior Auto.
JN Money, money touchdown. Send the money now. Reach wow. You say you need some money. JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use a money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us as we go through the census data with our Honorable Minister for Finance and Deputy Premier, with the Honorable Financial Secretary and the Director of the ESO as our guests. And gentlemen, I'm hoping that this would probably, be that thing that, how do I put it nicely, gets everybody to understand why I champion economics, from the first day of school. Because this is living, breathing data that informs, and it actually can excite. I mean, for the nerds out there, right, Honorable Financial? All right, so as you're going through the data, Honorable Minister, we'll take it, through your leadership as to where we don't get through, and the Honorable Financial Secretary talked about, some of the highlights. So you direct the team as to how we wish to proceed, sir.
Yeah, one of the things I think one of the things that jump out to me was on the health side. Mm-hmm. When I looked at the types of illness and then the type of disabilities, I was a little bit surprised. But then when you look at the same illnesses between like Caymanians, non-Caymanians, there was that difference was noticeable. And then when you also look at it between males and females, it was also noticeable. Mm-hmm. But then when you look at it, you realize a lot of it is also a lifestyle issue, a cultural issue. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like in our diet, we have a lot of starches. No, that's good for when you're growing up. No. As you reach a certain age and you still like your dumplings or whatever, we're not saying like you shouldn't be eating 50 dumplings a week. All we're saying is that maybe you should cut it down to maybe 5 or 10. 4 to 9. Something like that. I mean, not that I want to tell them about to go there and eat 5 or 10. I mean, there's still medical things to consider. But part of it now is how do we go out now and educate the population? Because one of the things, we do have an aging population, whether you want to accept it or not, when you look at the average age. Mm-hmm. And then you look at even the average age, even on the Caymanian side, you realize that it is a little bit... it is what it is, put it that way. But recognizing that people are living longer, the mortality rate, the last time I checked for women was 85, for men it was 79, thereabouts. Recognizing now if people are going to be in their bodies for a long time, how do we focus a lot on wellness now? Mm-hmm. To educate the public in that regard. Now, I mean, luckily I think we're fortunate to have the Minister of Health that we do. Very energetic. She's almost like a mother to some extent. And she's very big on the wellness side because ultimately, as the old people tell us, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And the main thing for us now is to actually start looking at how is it we can change the culture in that regard. Now, one of the things that the government is actually doing or consider doing, and as the Minister responsible for Cineco, we're actually looking at getting to pretty much do an executive medical throughout the entire civil service. I mean, as a start, maybe once every 2-3 years kind of thing. Will it cost us a lot of money? Yes, it will. I mean, it's going to cost well in excess of $1 million or $2 million to get those checks done. But you know what? What we can pick up, and also the peace of mind that it will give to people, knowing that you have gone through this kind of check. It's a detailed check. At least it gives them an idea. Start working from this. Maybe cholesterol is maybe manageable now, but maybe it's going too far. And then maybe you go back in the next 2-3 years and you see exactly where you are. You can then say, well, you know what, last time I was here, I need to make these adjustments. So it gives you a starting point, or at least where you can, and then start moving from there. But we want people to start focusing a lot more on health, the diet and everything else, because you look at it, and many of it is actually lifestyle driven.
Lifestyle. And we can incentivize people, this year your BMI is this. If you reach this, tangible benefits, travel, Camelback trip or best pay vacation?
Actually, now that you mentioned, one of the things that we are looking at, and I guess I put it out there, that's been under consideration, and I think my colleagues would probably support it. But one of the things that we had mentioned on the Cineco side is that if people aren't using, like say, their sick days, they get a bonus for that. Because that wouldn't be Cineco related, that'd be civil service related. Yeah. But equal at the same time too, if you have your health claim and you have not claimed on your health insurance for a period of time, it's to actually refund you back some of that money. Yeah. So you want to, like you say, incentivize people from that standpoint, because ultimately what we want is a healthy population.
Healthy population means more productive population.
And the two pillars in every government is to ensure that you have a healthy and educated population to meet the needs of your country. So we're working on the education side, but it may not use to spend the money to educate somebody if they're unhealthy and become unproductive.
Honourable Minister, I appreciate you sharing that, because I got accused publicly of saying that those are the pillars in society, and I'm telling people if I'm wrong, correct me. But I say that. So, but you saying that I feel validated?
No, it is no, but it is. I mean, economics itself is a behavioral science, and the first goal. Yeah. I mean, in the government from a society standpoint is that you have a healthy and educated population. Now, when you look at when people created government, they created government for three primary things: to protect their life, to protect their liberty, and to protect their properties. And so many things fall into those different buckets. You know, your property can be your home, it can be your business. That's why you got the fire station. That's why you got police services and all that kind of stuff. That's why you have a judicial system. You know what I mean? So it is about becoming more civilized to some extent, you know, living better.
Yeah. It's almost, you know, economies of scale and shared costs. All the Finance Secretary, I look at the data and I was thumbing through it. A lot of the themes were there, and I won't, because it's my personal preference, I won't do that in this instance. Look at the qualitative aspects, because it's good for most people. They like, you know, but what are the numbers saying? So as we start looking at the salient points, what are some of the primary ones, or that you may want the populace to pay attention as we get a copy, and whether we download it or just, you know, print it off ourselves?
Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Certainly I wanted to just add on a bit more detail to what I think the Minister for Finance was just saying in terms of let's concentrate on health for a second. So we see on page 23 of the document, when members access it and look at it, we speak there about the population 5 years and older being approximate. I'm just going to round some numbers so that it hopefully will stay easier in persons' memories. 5 years and older population, 65,000. The medically diagnosed illnesses, 8,400. Right? Of those 8,400 medically diagnosed illnesses, the top three are diabetes, 3,000 of the 8,400 diabetes. Arthritis, 1,400. Cataracts, 1,300, 1,300 and those are the top three illnesses that have been diagnosed in the population aged 5 and above. So it really, this document really does have a lot of useful information for the public. When we get on to
before we move on that, and this is one of the catches now, and I don't want to raise this point. We're talking about 3,000 people being diabetic.
Yeah,
I was actually pre-diabetic, and I had to literally go out and lose like 50 pounds to move away from that. And this is why the wellness part is important now.
Yeah.
Because while we measure those who are diabetic, those who will be borderline, pre-diabetic, that we don't know. And this is why where wellness kicks in now. We want to start with the civil service, and hopefully then the other private sector entities will do the same thing in terms of doing the same thing for their employees in terms of providing this that we're looking to do. So we're looking for government to play a leadership role to say to people, now when you go and you do your executive medical check, where are you in terms of being close to being pre-diabetic? No, again, medical information is confidential. We don't want to get into that.
No.
But at a minimum, I would like to know of the 4,000 plus people that we have in the civil service, how many are pre-diabetic. And at a minimum, well, not that they will give us this information, but at a minimum, our employees or team members would know where they stand and say, you know what, I need to start scaling back on certain things, because what you don't want to do is become diabetic.
Yeah.
Sorry, FS, I just had to clear that.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think the Adolphus would like to contribute as well.
Yeah.
I'll just round it off, Mr. Ebines, by saying if we move to disabilities next, so let's just stick with the same, say 65,000 persons that were 5 and older and their disabilities. 9,500 stated that they had disabilities. Of that, 65,000. What were the top disabilities? 2,400 said they had difficulty seeing. 2,100 said they had difficulty walking, difficulty climbing stairs. 1,600 said they had difficulty remembering, difficulty concentrating. And so it goes. So this again, I'm repeating myself a lot, but this document does really have a lot of very useful information.
Yeah.
If we jump quickly, and I'll stop here, with health insurance coverage, of the 68,811 population figure that were collected via the process of going through visiting people's homes, getting information on tablets. So of that, 3,600 didn't have health insurance. So the majority did, obviously, but the 3,600 of those did not have health insurance, which was not a great situation, but not disastrous either.
Right. I mean,
when we say disastrous because
5%.
I mean, we see healthcare still as a human right, and our target, if I can be blunt, is actually 100% healthcare.
That's what universal coverage, and this is why I like the qualitative as we even the quantitative numbers. Gentlemen, we'll pause, take our news break. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. Stay tuned.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. To facilitate pipeline improvement works in the area, Water Authority Cayman wishes to advise motorists and other road users that eastbound traffic along Shamrock Road between Savannah Avenue and Lancelot Drive will be diverted along Greenall Street each day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. starting Monday, August 8th until Friday, August 12th. In international news, China is halting cooperation with the U.S. in several key areas, including climate change, military talks, and efforts to combat international crime. The new measures follow a trip to Taiwan by a U.S. congressional delegation led by senior Democrat Nancy Pelosi. The measures were announced by China's foreign ministry on Friday. It said dialogue between U.S. and Chinese defense officials would be canceled, while cooperation on returning illegal immigrants, climate change, and investigating international crime would be suspended. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones has been ordered to pay $4.1 million in damages after falsely claiming the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting was a hoax. The parents of a victim have sought at least $150 million in Texas in the defamation trial against the InfoWars founder. They said they endured harassment and emotional distress because of the right-wing host's misinformation. 20 children and 6 adults were shot dead at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
The Chamber of Commerce Training Center's Workplace Essentials course focuses on providing the knowledge, skills, and attitudes your employees need to succeed, elevating your company far above the competition. Topics include basic accounting, communication skills, management training, and excellence in Excel. Make the Chamber Training Center a partner in your business success. Call the Chamber today at 949-8090 or visit caymanchamber.ky for further information.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks too for the opportunity to talk about the census data. And as the Honourable Minister of Finance, Honourable Financial Secretary, and the Director of ESO shared, I think great public thanks to all of the staff of the SO, the enumerators, but the entire general population for participating. So, Mr. Dilo, from that perspective, I mean, I'm excited about the number, but the FS probably shared, that's because you're nerds. But give us some context on what. Tell us about more of the data there.
Thank you, Sterling. One of the things one of the group of persons that we missed was the Census Advisory Committee. That the Census actually had a planning committee in place since 2018. And I just want to commend the Census Committee for putting together, discussing these questions. These questions were not just pulled out of thin air. They were discussed internally among the members of the committee, and they would have represented multiple organizations. So, for example, we had the Chamber of Commerce as the private sector representative. We had the Council for Persons with Disabilities. We had almost all the ministries of government at the time. We had the National Roads Authority. So each of the agency actually had areas where they had blind spots, and they wanted to shed light in those areas. So if we take, for example, the section that we were discussing a while ago, illness, disability, and health insurance, that was the largest change in the census compared to the last time around. We added 7 questions on the illness, disability, and health insurance. And because one of the reasons we look at internationally, and the Washington Group, which is the Council for Disabilities Worldwide, they had a series of questions where they wanted comparable questions around the world. So we are not the only country who are looking at these exact disability questions. But almost every country who's doing a census now is all administering these same questions. Now, the way the questions are phrased, they're basically geared to shed light in 2 areas. We are looking at the severity of a disability and also the duration of disability. So severe meaning to what extent are you disabled in terms of any of these categories, and for how long have you been that way? So those are 2 of the fundamental questions.
What about we'll get the prevalence of it from the data as well.
Right. So from those then we can calculate the prevalence. So which was in the report. But that's essentially what we are trying to do here. And now what FS was putting out a while ago, the financial secretary was putting out a while ago, is basically the diseases that are associated with disability. So we can now map the diseases that is actually causing in some ways those disability. And the minister was articulating earlier that we can then zone in on those areas.
So with that, as we look at a system of national accounts or other similar data, and we're doing cross-jurisdictional comparisons, we can look at it. So our census data would also allow us not only to get unique information to our country, but be able to compare to other jurisdictions. Well, this is what we have in our population. So we're somewhat aligned, not unlike the industrial codes for the things, similar for the census as well.
Yes, so we make sure whatever data that we are putting together, whether it's the national accounts, whether it's the labor force surveys, the census, we follow international standards. Just that we make sure that the data produced by the Cayman Islands are comparable anywhere in the world.
So one of the things I just want to add there, Sterling, is one of the things, as we look at HDI, for example, and it looks to answer the 3 questions. One of the questions in terms of decent standard living, that's broken down into 3 areas: income, economic structure, and also productivity. But when you actually look at income in that section that deals with income, one of the things that look at is purchasing power parity. In other words, what something costs here in Cayman versus something that you spend in a different country. Now, we for a long time, we compare prices with South Florida, what prices are in Miami, and then we expect a certain markup. But one of the things, and I'm going to say it now. And again, this is Chris. I want to take off my ministerial hat for a minute because recognize I'm bound by collective responsibility. But I still have a job first and foremost as an MP, and I always tell people I'm MP before I'm DP. When I start looking at purchasing power parity, and I'm going to use something as simple as property valuations. If you go and you look in New York or California, 2 of the most expensive places, you'll find that those may run roughly anywhere from $300 to $500 US for a property valuation. You're talking about 400 CI. I've seen people here charging people $1,100 to do a house valuation. Now, while I do expect that Cayman, we do have some things being a little bit more expensive, I find it very difficult to see property valuation costing $400 in, say, in New York, and then the same property valuation is being done here for like $1,100.
So a 400% increase almost.
Yeah, I mean, these are some of the things that are just really borderline ridiculous. And one of the things, and again, I want to thank the director and his team, start looking at those things where we have started saying, you know what, while we're looking at our basket of goods, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our basket of goods, our market basket of goods.
For the CPI.
Yeah. You know what? Let us start seeing what it is like in elsewhere to see exactly where we are, or start looking at purchasing power parity, because then it will probably drive some of the initiatives, that we want to do. So while I may have singled out the property valuation, and that's one of the things where we have had people who have, at least in my district, that have raised that issue with me. You look again on the data, you see that even house insurance, 60%, Bordentown has the highest in terms of insurance, in terms of property insurance, or from a household standpoint. So again, as the MP for Bordentown, this is something that I would be acutely interested in. And so, of course, that's when we start looking at now the Syneco's expansion. So even before getting the census data that confirmed to us that, Bordentown had the highest in terms of property insurance, you look at us in Syneco now looking to expand Syneco's profile, or the risk profile, in terms of going into property insurance. Now, while we maybe start limited in terms of what it is that we're doing, what we do expect ultimately is to see, to have some level of stability and some level of competitiveness within the market. The same thing again too when you look at even houses insurance. CIDB, again, which falls under the Ministry of Finance, still has a fixed rate product for 2 years at 3.75%. Prime right now is at 5.5%. So we're talking about well below what the prime rate is in terms of helping people with regards to home ownership and land ownership, that kind of stuff. So these are the kind of things that we basically need for people to understand. And for some business people, we just have to look them straight in the face and say, you know what, enough is enough. It can't be continuing where you just can't justify prices. We have seen it already on the price of fuel. This is something I raised from I was in opposition, and I remember one retailer, wholesaler, when they came before the Public Accounts Committee, and we literally asked them to break down the prices. And again, this is public knowledge. There were $2.50 of cost that they could not explain between when they basically bought it to when it reached the pump, other than to say Cayman is a high cost jurisdiction. I'm like, yes, it is, because you made it high cost by what you're charging for fuel, which drives, energy cost alone drives. And this is the reason why, we're pushing now to get more in terms of renewables. That over the next 5 to 10 years, we can cut that in half and at least have $100 million more circulating in our local economy that can go much further.
Well, through you, perhaps this is where we look at inflation, and our elderly hides would tell us $1 saves, $1 earned. But if we have increased costs and there's a push for increased wages to pay for increased costs, it only increases the cost again to pay for that increased wage, which increases the cost of the good. That vicious cycle of inflation. So if we understand that we reduce the cost of operation, cost of business, cost of the good, then your disposable income increases. Your dollar goes further.
Well, if you look at the two main drivers of the CPI, 49% of the CPI is broken down between the housing and the transportation sector. Housing, I think, is at 35%. Now, what drives primarily the housing is interest rates. You know what I mean? That is it. Then we also got factoring too, is in terms of the amount of properties that we have. One of the things between this census and last census that came on board is the Airbnb concept. Now, homes before that were previously in the domestic rental market moved into the Airbnb market. What did that do? That sat down, that created less property being available in the domestic market for domestic people. So the supply decreased, the demand went up. What do you think happened to the price?
Prices,
So some part of the price increase is actually driven by demand. I look at some of the and business people tell you that they charge what the market can take, as opposed to what the price actually should be in terms of a fair. And I don't want to pick out some people by example, but we know who some of these companies are that are charging based on demand rather than anything else. So when we sit down now to have these quote-unquote adult but difficult conversations, we cannot as a government sit down and allow any entity to take that much money off, hard-working people, money that they can be saving for their kids' college and everything else without some kind of fight. Because I can tell you, Sterling, and like I said, I watch carefully what I say now, especially being the Minister of Finance more than anything. But this is about everyone being treated fairly. Mm. This is all it is that we're looking for. We're looking for some level of equality, because ultimately, we need to build an economy that is sustainable. We also need to recognize we have generations coming behind us. We have to leave something. And I've said it over and over. We're not going to be remembered for what we inherited. We're going to be remembered for what we leave behind. Mm-hmm. And we now need to make sure that one generation don't come and wipe out all the natural resources that future generations will have nothing to do. Because I got kids coming up, and I got many people with kids, and many people they got kids coming up, and so many people are grandkids, in some cases great-grandkids. Right. It is important for us what it is that we do leave behind. One of the things that we're pushing for is even look at the UN sustainable goal of having 30% of land by 2030. Mm. We are, I think, somewhere around 11 or 12%. We don't expect to get to 30% in this term. God forbid we don't have that kind of resources. But we also now need to at least start it. So every time we look at the cabinet in the summary, I don't think a month don't pass where we're not out there buying land. And this is land for buying to put down for future generations and everything else. And if we can get that number to say even 15% by the end of 2025, I know if we're re-elected, hopefully we are. Probably get up to maybe 20% by the next term. These are the kind of stuff. And to give the premier's credit, one of the first things he tasked us with, and I really got to respect him for it. Looking back at it, I thought maybe he was a little bit crazy when he said it, that any decision we made, it has to be one that can stand the test of time for 10 years. Mm. I'm like, man, you just jump past 2 straight terms going into 3 terms. I'm like, but the good thing about it is, the Caymanian people is mature enough and knowledgeable enough and smart enough to recognize short-term decisions versus long-term decisions. And I think they themselves got a little bit tired too of the very short-term decisions, where you're making a decision that can only carry to the next election, so you have something to run on re-election with. And we are running on the basis that, they can see the long term of what it is that we're doing in terms of changing the national dialogue, changing the national discourse. That we can look past the next election, but rather to the next generation. And I think they're smart enough now and knowledgeable enough now to understand that. Now, one of the things, to put it in context, go back to gross national happiness again, which, you measure your score, but the question is, okay, this is what you have, but how do the people feel about it? And that's why the gross national happiness is something that you hear us start using a lot more. One of the first things on that is social support. Mm-hmm. Do you have someone to count on? No. We are in a service-based economy. 95% of our people make their money from services. Our family depends on our ability to get up, to be healthy, to come out and make a living. But we also have to recognize that a vast majority of our people working today is one medical emergency away from being bankruptcy. God forbid you get a stroke. Yeah. God forbid you get a heart attack. And God forbid you working for an employer who will at least see you through illness. But many of us don't have that. And we have seen civil servants be medical boarded. We have seen people in the private sector basically being made redundant because, again, for health concerns. What happened to your family? No. So when you see us now pushing for the expansion of Cineco, is recognizing that when we had one local company decided to leave the Cayman Islands, many people who had pre-existing conditions found themselves with premiums that were doubled. Many businesses found themselves in the challenge of going out now to finding a new insurer where they had employees that were aging with pre-existing condition. Their premiums started to double. The minute you start paying more to one, it means you got less disposable income for something else. When we made the very, I wouldn't say a difficult decision, it was easy for us, looking at the fuel factor, and we said, you know what, if we have people putting their money straight into light bills over the summer months when things are very expensive with the high fuel that we have now, it means they have less money for food. It means they have less money for summer camp. It means they have less money to even take that much needed vacation, especially coming out of COVID. And we say, you know what, we're going to freeze the fuel factor at this rate, and we'll eat the difference. Mm-hmm. Again, these are the kind of stuff that save families money. It costs us over $60 million a year on a free school lunch program. But the estimate that we're saving Caymanian families is $25 million. That's $25 million a year more that they can basically have to do more for their families, do other things for their families. And these are the kind of stuff that we're looking at because people's income aren't moving. You know what I mean? And we can't sit down and tell businesses what to charge, but what we can do at some point is say to them, enough is enough. You're making too much of a killing on this now. So these are the kind of stuff that you want to get to, while at the same time maintain an economy that's private sector driven. Because as I've said before, and I've said it publicly, for everywhere where the politicians have gotten into the market system, it has not turned out well. And they said Jimmy Carter was the first president to find out that the office of the president is there to preserve democracy. The Federal Reserve is there to preserve capitalism. The minute you start getting politicians into your direct market economy and all that kind of stuff, it has never worked out well. And if you do that, you start getting into socialism and all that kind of crazy stuff. And those are the kind of stuff that look good on paper, they sound good on paper, but at the end of the day, history have not shown where they have worked out to be the best. So the main thing is allow the people, allow the private sector, allow your people to drive the economy. That's what it has to take.
So, Honourable Minister, with that point, and there are many who would certainly concur with you, but if you have that and you look at rent controls, price controls, minimum wages and the like, do they too disconnect if the private sector and the market economy is going to drive prices of rents, prices of labor and the like? But government is saying, well, this is the ceiling on this, this is the floor on this.
I think one of the main things that we are, I think Premier made an announcement already where we are looking to, in terms of, getting the whole landlord and tenant type legislation definitely updated for what it is. But when you talk about rent control, the first thing you ask yourself the question is that there are also people out there that have sacrificed a lot, because a lot of the renters are actually Caymanian families too. A lot of Caymanian retirees are dependent on rental income to supplement them in their golden years. I mean, for someone to come along now and say, after all the sacrifice that you have done, you can't charge more than X, Y, Z. What it is that we can do, and this is what it is that we are looking to do, and in some cases already doing, is we're saying, you know what? Take something as basic as land and start with land. Land is an issue. What did the government decide to do? You know what? With the people's money, we're going to go out and we're going to buy land for the people. We're starting a project off in East End where we're actually subdividing land in East End for a quarter acre. Based on the cost and to put everything in. That now works with $35,000 for a house lot in East End. And by the end of this year, before the end of this year, we should have, I don't expect those land to stay on the market for too long. Again, for Caymanian families now, where in Cayman can you go and buy a quarter acre of land for $35,000? Nowhere. You know what I mean? You may get natural love and affection plus $35,000. Now, in this situation now, so we're going through the different parts of the island right now to say, you know what, here's what we're looking at doing. Equally, what Minister Jay is doing with the National Housing Development Trust. We're looking at a property right now in Georgetown where we're looking to basically build some condos on it. Again, we recognize you got a lot of young professional Caymanians coming in. I think the bid may have gone out already for bids. I'm not certain yet. But from that standpoint now, in 1 year we're looking at maybe doing about say 90 condos to some extent. You know what I mean? Again, I have seen the proposal in terms of the price point is like literally 50% whatever the market is right now, thereabouts. And again, we're working, I've already reached out to banks about even securing 100% financing for Caymanians who want those properties. Now, put 90 units in a particular area and then people start seeing the cost, they're like, wait a minute. All of a sudden, so why is this person charging that amount and so forth? So we're not about sitting back and stopping private enterprise. But what we're saying is this. If we see where we can do it more efficiently or work with others to do it more efficiently, then we'll do so.
Complementary, huh?
Exactly. So, this is not about, because at the end of the day, the private sector do employ, the majority of Caymanians are still employed in the private sector. Do the government want to compete with the private sector? The answer is no. We don't. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we still recognize that there is a need and there's a certain market for certain things. You know what I mean? And from that standpoint, well, you know what? We have resources too. It's the people money, the people have a demand, we'll find our own way to do it. I know Minister Jay is also pushing for his government discount store, where all of the items that are duty free right now, he's trying to create a scenario where you can actually come and buy from the government discount store all of those items that are duty-free. Why are the duty-free items? So the merchants or nobody can say, well, government is competing against them because government is not charging themselves duty or anything like that. Everybody's basically not paying duty on none of those items, so it's a level playing field. Because some of the most expensive things in this country are the things that are already duty-free. I mean, let's call it for what it is. You know what I mean? Now, the retailers may say something different, and again, I'm not here to pick on them, but at the same time, I do recognize that people like anyone else want value. You know, they want to be treated fairly, and if we see where that can't be done, then we'll find our own way to either work with others to do it, encourage or incentivize others to do it, and the worst case or last scenario, do it ourselves. But us doing it, that is always the last scenario. We prefer to encourage others, incentivize others to do it, and then worst case, the government steps in. You know, and this is why this kind of information is important. So when you do look at something, like I've seen one article that was really jumped out at me, was a couple of years back, an article in Atlantic where it said, I think it was like 40% of Americans, if they had a $400 emergency, could not find $400. And while we don't have that kind of database in our people, I mean, I had to ask myself the question, how many people in Cayman could find $400 or $500 if they had an emergency? And then when you actually look at the median income in terms of what 50% of the population is making above and what 50% of the population is making below, then you look at the basic stuff like, you know, what is the average rent/mortgage? You know, how much do you need for a family of, you know, 4, you know, with 2 kids, you know, a husband and wife? And you start breaking it out. And you start, in essence, pricing the Caymanian dream, you know, at least even going out once a month to enjoy a meal or something. You know, we start looking at stuff that people need to feel like they're not on a plantation, that they're not just working to pay bills. You know, and then you have to ask yourself the question, can this average salary in this country give the people a quality of life to directly move where we need to move on the gross national happiness? So again, you look at the very first one, social support. Do I have someone to count on? We recognize now coming out of COVID that government resources are limited. We don't have the massive surplus that, you know, we had in the past. Then the question is, if we can't provide the support, or we don't think we're providing the support that people need, then the question is, what is it that we do? Now, I'm about to say something here right now, which has not been approved in my caucus. I know where some members feel on it, because I've discussed it with some members. So I'm actually going to say it here publicly first. You know what I mean? Of one of the things that I am looking at doing as a Minister of Labour, we're looking to make, well, which also includes pensions, we're actually looking to make a changes to the pension law. The first one is increase the amount from 35,000 to 50,000. This was something that Minister Brian bought when he was then MP in opposition. It was unanimously passed in the Parliament. It went nowhere. To at least increase it from 35,000 to 50,000. So if a married couple have at least 100,000 or less remain on their mortgage, they can borrow. Well, they can take from their pension and borrow against their pension to pay it off. You know, so it's one of the changes that we're looking to do. Again, like I said, I have some support. I've not sat down and gone through it every single member, because I like to sit down with my guys individually first and go lobby them before I carry to caucus. You know what I mean? And then one of the other things that I'm seriously considering is actually amending the pension legislation that allows people to borrow up to a certain percentage from their pension to be used in terms of emergencies or whatever. Because when you're talking about people, like, this money is going to be available at 65. If at 45 you have an emergency right now, a legit emergency, me telling you got this money at 45 or 60 next 20 years, no use to you right now. You know, so we want to expand the areas in which people can borrow against their pension and pay it back at a certain percentage over a period of time, you know, up to the age of 65, maybe 10 years max. And again, this is not an original idea. They do something like that similar in Canada, so I stole it. I'm just being straight up.
You're borrowing good
yeah, whatever. No, but I'm going to sit back and say I sat down and this came to me in the middle of the night of some dream. No. Other countries do it. It's available elsewhere. And then equally reverse mortgage too. I met with CIDB last week, and I said to them, start looking at the idea of, you know, putting together a reverse mortgage product. Again, we have a lot of seniors here who, for their own dignity, do not want to go to NAU or to go to government for assistance. You know, a lot of Caymanians have their wealth tied up in property and so forth. Once you reach a certain age, banks don't want to lend you anything. But what do you use a female at 65, living to 85, and all of a sudden no credit is available to her because of a certain age. The banks didn't want to look at you. What you going to do for the next 20 years if she have an emergency or something? Yeah. So again, these are the kind of thought process that goes into how do we create the infrastructure necessary for people to basically have someone that they can count on. And the best person you can count on in an emergency is the position of people to count on themselves.
Right. Well, Honorable Minister, as you reference that, as you go into the break, I'll say to you, if it's okay, we've had from overwhelming, I've lost count of the amount of people who have said, would it be possible for me to access my mortgage? Increasing from 35 to 50 is helpful, but accessing my pension funds to repay my mortgage entirely. If they got 100,000 balance on their mortgage and 100,000 in their pension, take it all out, the mortgage is repaid, house can't be subject to foreclosure. You can put conditions that you can't go back and get it. There have been countless people, just yesterday alone, 8 people had that same concern. If they're out of electricity, out of water, at least they got a roof over their head, there's no bank beating on the door. Since you referenced the public, I would just share it. But again, not an original idea.
Like I said, you look at gross national happiness, the first one on that list of 6 is having someone to count on.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, now you look at the countries with the happiest index. Here's the worst part. They're the countries with the highest tax rates too. Where the government literally takes so much of their money, but the government give it back to them in different services. So we don't have the tax rate, and we don't have the direct taxation that many of those countries have. That we can get up and say we're offering all of this, but at a minimum, it doesn't change the fact that people still need that support in times of emergencies, and it's either the government provide it, or we find a way in which they can basically help themselves.
Gentlemen, if I may, sort of ask your permission. Let's pause and take the break. See that smile on her face. I want to keep it. All right, let's pause and take that break. When we come back, more talk today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skin care, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drportercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Back to school. Education is knowing the best back-to-school specials are at Reflections. Step into savings with up to 50% off selected footwear brands. Buy one pair and get the second pair of back-to-school shoes at 25% off. Save 50% off on all U.S. Polo handbags and backpacks. Ladies, don't miss the amazing daily deals in the clearance section on special selected women's fashions. Keep it classic with Levi jeans in a wide variety of styles and sizes from 28 to 48. And for the freshest gear, check out the new stock of Nike, Puma, Adidas, Johnny Cotton, and more. The best back-to-school savings are at Reflections. Find them on Shedden Road beside the Mango Tree. Open daily from 9 a.m. till after dark.
We'll be the coolest kids in school.
The public are advised of the following road closure. The section of Cardinal Avenue between Albert Panton Street and Edward Street will be temporarily closed to traffic, projected to reopen at the end of August. As part of the Georgetown Revitalization Initiative, work is being carried out to transform Cardinal Avenue into a pedestrian-friendly street. For more information, members of the public can follow the Georgetown Revitalization Initiative on Facebook and Instagram at GT Revitalization.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And as we continue the discussion on the census, ESO.KY, you can go on and look at the document, download it, double-sided, save yourself some paper and have it in your hand. The Honorable, Minister for Financial Services and all the Deputy Mr. Saunders joins us.
Financial Services. Oh, no. There's another Minister for Financial Services. That's the Minister Andre, and I can tell you, since you brought it up, listen.
You need to change that.
I gotta say one thing. Minister Andre is doing an exceptional job. I can tell you, I say it publicly. I have this belief that, while I expected from entering the politics that I'd be outspent and out-marketed, but I made up my mind I will not be outworked. And there are days in which I'm leaving the office at night. I go downstairs, I see Minister Andre Carr, I go back upstairs. I'm like, he's not. I go and check on him like, Minister, you still here? Yeah, DP, I'm just working on one thing. I soon leave. And I go back and I finish on work. Then I go back and peep on him because he's on the same third floor as I am. And once he leaves, I'm like, okay, I feel like and same as the Premier. Now, Premier is just in a different class. I just accepted that there's some days he's just going to beat me. Because I swear to God, his car must have been part there, but the man is always working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I tell you what, it's good when you come down and you see, the minister's working. Minister J is always the first one in. Live the furthest, but always the first one in. It's great to have such a good team. Minister Brian, God, the man, like he doesn't sleep, energy. 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, the caucus chat group is just alighted. It's just a hard-working group.
Yeah, that's good.
I really go put it out there.
Well, I think you should, because hopefully Minister Ebanks, and we'll get to the point where Minister of Finance and Minister of Financial Services always seem to conflate the two. But we had the cleanup in the Westwood community last weekend, and Minister Ebanks, would have been there, and 3:30 in the morning, he's preparing for his presentation at 9. Sorry, Jensen, I can't make it. I'm thinking, when do you guys sleep? I thought it was just Susan who was awake at that time.
You look at P.S. Rankin, you look at P.S. Borden, you look at Seymour, you look at Kathy. Kathy is the one who's mostly in my office. I have a DP, I need with so-and-so, Aisha, I need help with so-and-so. I can tell you, guys, I hate lazy people. I really genuinely do not like lazy people. So it makes a big difference when you can sit around a table every Monday when we caucus with a group of people that will work. Minister, the only one, the hardest one to track is Minister Bush, and that's because 1 minute he's driving a truck, then he has this little piece of car, and I'm not picking on his car, But the other day, last Monday, Heather said to him, it's somebody parking in the minister's spot down the car. I see his little blue car down there, and Bernie's like, no man, that me. We still have the car on these yellow license plates, so you can directly tell to put it in context. And it was just so far out. But let me tell you guys, it's good like I said, I'm a competitive person by nature, and like I said, I've just accepted that some days I am going to be outworked by some of my colleagues. I've just accepted that. So you know what? It's a good problem for the country to have.
The scripture says, "Don't let the sun beat you and find you in bed," right?
Yeah.
Although Finance Secretary, this is where this document is instructive, informative, and if you forgive me, it's exciting. I mean, it gets almost I don't want to get too excited because then next thing you know, I'll get another label.
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Eubanks, you're right. It is exciting, and it like I said before, it does have a bit of everything for the public to look at. So if you're into history, for example, very early on in the document, it indicates that our very first census that we're aware of was back in 1802, and 200 plus years, a little bit over 200 years later, we're in 2021, and in 1802 the estimated population then was 933 people. Now we're at 71,105, and the census document plots and shows the population estimates over a large number of years. So if I'm looking, for example, at the census in 1921, where the estimated population was 5,270, I think I've marked through quite a bit on my document.
Yeah, I want that copy.
And and in 2021, 100 years later, we're at 71,105 was the non-institutional, the household population. That's 13.5 times an increase in the population in 100 years. So there's lots of good historical aspects in the document as well that the public can take a look at. For example, in the 10 years from 1970 to 1979, inclusive, that's 10 years. Although it sounds like 9, but inclusive, it's 10 years. In that 10-year period, each year in that 10 years, the population grew by 5.8% each year. That was the highest. That's quite a high population growth per year. Whereas, for example, in the 11 years from 2010, or previous census, to 2021, the most recent one that we're speaking to now, in that 11-year period, the population growth each year was around 2.4%. So there's tremendous historical information that can be gained from this document.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying that the public should take note of the information here. It is very useful.
And I think we look at the population growth and the notion that sustainability, can a country with the infrastructure and the provision, if its population in year 1 is X, and then in the year 10, for example, it's X times this. What does that mean for the country, the social demographics, but also the economic and financial implications of provision of services? A directive from that perspective, if it's not inappropriate to ask. The census was to have been 10-10-20, right? And I wonder if we are able, either through just conjecture or whether just other speculation otherwise, wonder to what extent there may have been any changes that would have expected if it was done in 20 versus 21 in terms of population growth, in terms of the data we collected. If there's anything that may have been sort of different.
While we are conjecturing at this juncture,
so economists do, right?
in 2010, we had just over 55,000 persons. In 2019, just prior to the pandemic, we had estimated the population to around 69,000 plus. And after the onset of COVID-19, then we dropped to about 65 thereabout. So I would suspect that if we didn't have COVID, then it could have been around the same population in 2020 now. Than, because some of the persons initially leave the country and then came back after, the onset of the pandemic. But also in the growing population, what we are seeing also is the growth in households. So just as the chief officer was explaining some of the changes in the in the population, we also seen a 30% growth in households from 2010 to 2021.
25% increase in population, 30% increase in households, which is significant.
And within that household, even though the average household size remained pretty much the same, because we are looking at approximately 2.42 persons in 2010 compared to 2.39 in 11 years later. So it basically means that the household is matching the population because it's the same average size.
But then ask yourself the question, why then the massive increase?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then, because it appears as if though demand and supply, but of course, if you drill into it, it could be a situation where you have the quote-unquote tenement yards, the quote-unquote, where you can have 5 rooms in one house, but that will count as literally 5 households. Yeah, so because each one in terms of, you count the service, so I said, this is where now we have to sift through the data now to say, well, wait a minute. If it's based on that, it'll make it look as if though the demand has kept up with supply.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then you drill into it now, the question is, how many of those 5 bedrooms? And I can tell you, I have seen in my own district where homes that I thought were homes were literally 4 separate people now living and sharing in one house. But you would pass it and you would think, oh, just one family over there, when in fact it's 4 different people. So again, those are the other things that we have to drill into now to try to make sense out of the data that we have.
And I'm glad you referenced that, and I'll just say this generally back to what the Honorable Minister had referenced earlier in terms of the people who reported going without food. If we understand the economic dynamic, we would probably assume, well, that's people there, people with this economic sort of level. But what if it actually presented people who are working, who are making a certain income, but after their expenses, they have to now make a sacrifice. Well, I won't eat today. I won't be able to eat as much. And with that data would inform us that maybe we don't have that wage, or we have too much expense relative to our income.
That is one of the things I can tell you. And again, when we look inside our strategic policy statement document, we did speak about dealing with the minimum wage issue. And one of the things we had pretty much the committee set in terms of already agreed the members, the membership and the composition for months now. But we wanted the committee that when they have their first meeting, that they in essence would have the most recent up to date, as opposed to meet and then just to wait to find out, okay, what next. So now, again, like I said, we just did the PR committee last week, and I'm open at least from this cabinet meet next Tuesday to at least have the minimum wage committee, because the membership and everything has already been agreed. But now they have the data. And one of the things that we expect people to go through now is literally price. I don't use the word Caymanian dream to sound cliche, but these are the basic things that people will need. Like, can we agree? This is what average rent / average mortgage should be. This is what it costs to maintain a family of 4. Where at least hopefully can take 1 vacation a year, eat out maybe once a month or something. The things that give people a certain quality of life, a certain balance. And it could be something else. Maybe they don't want to eat out. Maybe they want to barbecue. It could be something.
A little bit
but
more
at least sit down and say, okay, what income then do people need to have a certain decent quality of life? And then what is the minimum wage here? And then you take that, you multiply that by a family of husband and wife, you double that salary, and at least having at least 2 kids. What would that cost them? You know what I mean? And kind of work then. How do we get what it is we get? It might be a situation where you jump like from $6 to $12, but gradually you can say, you know what, here's where we want to get to. We met with the supermarkets about 2-3 weeks ago, and we were surprised to find out, on average, most of them are paying already well above the minimum wage. I didn't realize the supermarkets themselves was even paying, I think like $9 already told us or something like that on average. You know what I mean? So, again, but then when you factor in the minimum wage, you also go factor in now on the domestic side, where many Caymanian families, have domestic helpers and so forth. How would that fit into when you start looking at the amount and everything else? You know what I mean? And then at the same time, you do recognize, you have to then ask yourself the question, the majority of people, what is the helper there for? Is the helper there to take care of the parent? Is the helper there to take care of the child? If there's a situation where it's there to take care of the parent, then we have to ask ourselves the question, do we have enough facilities or activities or the infrastructure there to adequately take care of our seniors? Or equally, do we have sufficient in terms of daycare with a young child where the parents is going off to work, you don't have a daycare? Then how do you go around now incentivize maybe even daycare centers or to expand? Or, then again, is it also affordable? So these are the kind of real hard decisions now that we need to sit down with and work. And as I said at the press conference, our goal now is to sit with each of the ministries over the next coming weeks, with the ESO team to say, okay, here's the 12th section of the census. Here's what relates to your ministry. And then more importantly now, how can we now sit down and evaluate maybe existing policies or even look at new policies to come in based on information that we have. So for us in government, it's not just a matter of producing this report now, but for us it's about actually doing something with it now. So again, like I said, I can tell you, looking at it, why we're pushing, we spoke to about, we looked at something we discussed from a cynical standpoint before about the emphasis on wellness. Minister Turner has been very clear in terms of pushing in terms of wellness. Now for us now, it's about recognizing that these diabetes and these kind of medical markers or whatever you want to call them is an issue for us. How do we now sit down now? And even from a CBC standpoint, if there's stuff coming to the country that is duty-free, that's killing our people, we have to ask ourselves the question, do we really want to make this thing inexpensive for it to continue doing so too? So it may require even some changes in terms of even the very import duty. But if you know something is bad for your people, and it's very inexpensive to bring it in, why would you want to do that too? But again, these are policy decisions that myself and my colleagues will have to sit down and then hopefully go to the Caymanian people and say, guys, this is what we're doing and here's why we're doing it, and what say you?
Mr. Jefferson, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sterling. Just piggybacking a bit on what Minister Saunders just spoke about in terms of housing and so forth. If we just go back to some of the the basics of the census, right? The fundamental question to ask, which is, who's included in the population count? So we need to address that, right? Certainly, we're not including tourists. So the situation that the definition of the population that was carried out was on Census Day. Were you in the Cayman Islands for 6 months or more? Or you intended to be in the Cayman Islands for 6 months or more. So a genuine tourist coming here for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month is not going to get included. Yes, a work permit holder for a year, for example, is going to get included in the census count. So the household count, as we said many times on the show, was estimated at around 71,105. So that is the definition that went into arriving at that number. Were you in the Cayman Islands, you could be a Caymanian, you could be a non-Caymanian, and you're ordinarily resident here for 6 months, or you certainly were going to be resident for 6 months or more. If you satisfy those criteria, yes, you got counted. There were something like 29,699 households that helped us in getting the census. So if you want to round it, you could round it to 29,700, or you could round it to 30,000. Those are when we started the show at the very beginning, we were thanking persons for participating. We're talking almost 30,000 households that helped us get the census information. In terms of the number of households, again, this is the type of information that is included in the document. We're saying that of those approximately 30,000 households that helped us in 2021, 14,700 of those were rented and furnished. 6,800 were owned with a mortgage over the property. 6,100 were owned without a mortgage. And so in terms of percentages, the rented household furnished was 49% of the almost 30,000, and that, I think, to quite a lot is reflective of the fact that, you know, a significant portion of the resident population here are non-Caymanians. They're on work permits. It's a generalization, but most of those tend not to own their property. So that would fit in with rented furnished accommodation being 50% of the 30,000 households. Owned with mortgage is 23%, and owned without a mortgage 20%. So you add those latter two categories together, we're talking 43% of the households were owned with a mortgage or without a mortgage, but certainly owned. So this is the type of information that you know, members of the public will find by delving into the document and diving into the document.
Okay. I think, so before I lose train of thought, one of the things just to note, and just double check it from my own recollection, even though the tabular count was 68,811, there were 2,271,105 includes 2,294 that we estimate. I think there were like about 900 homes, Director. There were about 900 homes, and then we look at like the average, like 2.42 per home,
just 2,000
to kind of have an idea, you know, what they would have probably would have represented. So we did have around 900 households that for whatever one reason or the other did not complete the survey. So we know those were there because we saw it. We know lights were on, so we know people were in there. So we still had to kind of make an estimate as to how many people may have been inside that house. And then hopefully, and so that's why as you go to the document, you'll see the tabular is what drives then a percentage, especially on the healthcare side and so forth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in terms of the actual population, we also had to go through and actually look at the homes that they were no response and make some estimate from that standpoint. And the other thing I want to add also is that, you know, as per international standards, to count as a part of the population, it is those, you know, 6 months or above. Am I correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Now, we also do recognize that we have a quote-unquote, for lack of a better term, sticky visiting population that owns the condos and so forth, that will come down here for 2, 3, 4 months at a time, you know, chilling out, relaxing in the Cayman Islands. That would not normally would count as part of the
population.
But if we were to look at CBC stats alone and take just, a population freeze here, and then look at, you know, all the arrivals minus all the departures, because we also do have a very strong stay over tourism product. You know what I mean? At any point in the, on island, you could have, especially during high tourist season, over 100,000 people on island, and of course you can tell by the traffic and everything else too. So it is, you know, while we do have a population that is sticky, we also got to recognize that we also have a lot of visitors to the island also. And again, in a small island, you actually will see it much more, you know what I mean, as opposed to everything else. Yeah. And you go to even the supermarkets that serves the West Bay Road area, and you can literally see the amount of tourists inside there in the 1.2. And these are people that's renting cars and, you know, going about their life also. So it is part of the carrying infrastructure in terms of our population that we also have to consider too.
All right. Just to add to what Chief Officer and Minister had said, in terms of the population count. So we look at the 6 months period to who was on the island at Census Day, who intended to be here for 6 months consecutively, but we also include family members studying abroad. So students studying abroad are also included in the count once they intend to return to the Cayman Islands after the duration of study. Persons also with a medical attention were also counted. So those two, there was no limit in terms of time, because a student is expected to return home, and a person after some medical procedure is expected to return home. But other than that, most of the other criteria meet that 6 months.
Okay. All right, we're going to pause and take the news break. Come back, we'll continue with the discussion. Stay tuned.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. In the latest public health COVID-19 report, today's 7-day rolling average of positive cases is 36, with 9 patients currently hospitalized, and of these, 8 are vaccinated with 2 doses. In international news, Canada is to ban imports of handguns, part of a move that could see a total freeze on their purchase and sale. The temporary ban, starting on August 19th, will be enforced until Parliament passes strict new rules. Handguns have one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to kill people, Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino told reporters on Friday. The government's proposed total ban, unveiled in May, follows outrage over several deadly shootings. A judge has ordered Kevin Spacey to pay House of Cards producers $31 million for the costs involved in removing him from the series following sexual misconduct allegations. The U.S. actor was ordered last year to pay entertainment company MRC after claims of misconduct with young crew members, which he denies. Spacey appealed to have the arbitration award to the producers overturned, but his request was denied by a judge in L.A. on Thursday. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
We wanna go and dally. Bacayard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine. 7 Mile Beach might have changed, but Bacayard is bringing it back. True Caribbean food in the heart of 7 Mile, just like Mama's home cooking. Brown stew snapper, Cayman-style beef, jerk chicken, turtle stew, and the delicious list goes on. Dine in, take out, or order with the Bento app. Bacayard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine, 269 West Bay Road, or call 746-4603. Bacayard, daily lunch specials, and the one-of-a-kind Fun Day Sunday brunch.
Bacayard. Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks again for joining us. And please, go online, www.eso.ky, look at the census data. And just a quick, few more minutes with the Honorable Minister for, Finance and the Deputy Premier. Not the Honorable Minister for Financial Services. I make sure I get that correct. And the Honorable Financial Secretary, Mr. Ken Jefferson, is the law at the Director ESO. Minister, I know, unlike the rest of us, once we leave here, we can go home. You guys got work to do. So thank you for that strong work ethic.
No, I have been blessed, I must say, and I brag about this to my other colleagues that I think I have 2 of the best chief officers in the entire civil service, which is Ken Jefferson and Mr. Wesley Howell. I could not have asked for a better...
Two SBOs, right? 2 SBOs?
Well, they live in Button Town too. So, yeah. But no, they have assembled a great team.
Yes, sir.
And they have really made my life much easier. And as I said before, even Director Laidlaw, the government came in, we went through the process of, looking at what, different people were important to my colleagues and, made the necessary adjustments, even on the census side, but also in some of the other stuff that he looked at. And so his department is literally one of the cornerstones of this entire government in terms of driving policy. And I can tell you they work very long hours. And they work on weekends too. I know because I see it firsthand myself. I'm inside there late at night. You hear them down there working. You come in on weekends, they're still there working. And the amount of time that they put in through the census, it is unbelievable. We have listed every person who worked in the census inside the book, because we do recognize that this is still once in a 10-year exercise. Many people may have gone through 4 or 5 of these during their working period. So it in itself is of historical significance, and we want to make sure that we recognize everyone who was also part of this historical exercise. And again, I want to thank the 432 persons that made this possible. And more importantly, the thousands of people, at least almost 30,000 homes, that welcome in the census workers and to provide this information. for us, this is a very valuable tool. We don't have, like in other countries, the tax system. We have all of this data on their individuals. So that's why it is very important for us in terms of what the ESO goes out and do their survey and collect the information. And I can tell you, they do very detailed survey. For the government entities out there that are listening, I am begging you, I'm not calling you by name. When the ESO sends these requests, please send them through. I am asking you politely, because the next time I come on the radio, if the ESO don't have the reports that they should have, based on information you have not produced, I may accidentally call your name. Just by accident. So I'm begging you, please, to cooperate with the ESO, because they do provide a very valuable job. And I can tell you, and I'm sure the director can tell you, down to the very premier will call him directly to say he needs this, this, and this. So it is not as if the work of ESO goes unnoticed. It is one where we literally sit down and we call him up. When do we have the labor force survey for this? When do we have that? When can we expect this? So it's important for them to get the job. And what you don't want is the director saying to himself or the premier or any of the ministers or my colleagues to say, I don't have this because so-and-so have not produced the information. You don't want that. Anyway, with that said, just get a little bit of house cleaning out. What is important for us as a government, and I mean, we mostly caucus on Mondays. I mean, this week we had to caucus twice. We had caucus yesterday again also, in terms of, different things that we're looking at. We cannot make informed decisions without having information. And that is why it's important that when ESO, sends out these forms and doing the survey, that they're completed on time, and they're completed the most accurate information you have, because we rely on that information in order to make decisions. Our goal ultimately as a government is to look at how we can build an equitable, inclusive, and balanced economy. That we're pretty much ensuring the well-being, the happiness, and also the sustainability of our infrastructure and people and everything else. That is pretty much what it is we want. I mean, we're about creating opportunities. I mean, we need the HDI score to see exactly where we are. I mean, when things like, we look at, like, for example, level of educational attainment. That is something, how much education a person has up to the age of 25. But then also, what have they attained, but also what could they have attained. And this is the kind of stuff that we want to look at. And that's the reason I said before, why when you're pushing to make ICCI and UCCI free, ultimately we would like for a person on this island to be able to get up to a master's degree free of cost. I mean, I'm going to boldly say before the end of this administration, that to get that number in terms of expected that it's available to them, because it is still about opportunities for our people. It is about creating those opportunities, giving them the ability to go out, live the best lives that they want. I mean, it doesn't have to be... And there's this definition that I think I came across from Ernest Nightingale, Earl Nightingale, or one of them, that says, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, in the sense of you're working towards what is going to make you happy. If you want to be a teacher, you want to be a homemaker, you want to work in a supermarket, you want to be a mechanic, whatever it is that makes you happy, and if that's what you're working towards, then that is what success is. It's not about money. It's about, being happy, being fulfilled. And that is why, even though we're looking at the score to say, here's where we are on certain qualitative metrics, but then the question is this now, is it translating to our people being happy? Is it content, is it translating to our people feeling fulfilled? I can tell you, on the individual level, and Mark Twain said it best, the two most important days in a person's life is the day they're born and the day they know why. And just as though individually each of us have a purpose, or individually each of us have a mission, we also have to accept that on a collective level, on a national level, we should also have something similar. And for us as this government now, it's about going out and finding the collective purpose of our people. We do recognize that we have well over 100 different nationalities. Your heritage is your heritage, but your culture is always something that literally will be evolving. I'm old enough, I'm 50 next year. And there was a time growing up where certain food, I can say like oxtail, even curry, chicken, curry, goat, was for a certain demographic, for a certain group. Now, almost 50 years later, you can't tell the Caymanian people curry then belongs to them. As a matter of fact, there are some Caymanians who tell you that Cayman invented curry. And it was some guy when we went out to sea from India would have stole the recipe or something, and because they had more people made it popular. I mean, this is what culture does. You know what I mean? And one of the things, while we do break down the information between Cayman and non-Cayman and everything else, this government is also very cognizant that our successes that we have and what is that we have achieved could not have been done without many people coming to our shores and now call the Cayman Islands home. You know what I mean? So when we talk about building that inclusive society, it's about recognizing everyone that contributed. Our success has never been about immigration. It has always been integration. People coming here, becoming part of the fabric, becoming part of the community and contributing. And that is one of the things that we always want to make sure that we recognize. You know, a person may be a non-Caymanian today, 5-10 years from now, they're Caymanian. 20-30 years from now, the kids are like first-generation Caymanians. It's about creating that kind of level of integration. And that's why even when we're putting together the budget, we put money in Minister Bush's portfolio to have more activities to bring people together. Now, you saw his press conference the other day. I think I probably gave him too much money because Paris Week now I think is running for about several months. So clearly, I mean...
14 months, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so clearly... you know, he has enough funds, but you know, things that bring about the air show, things that bring about the East End bonfire, you know what I mean, things that bring our families together, things that bring people together, things that bring kids together. Because whether you accept it or not, there are some things that I am hoping to God that we do find to end in this term, which is even the segregation in schools. I mean, that is one of the things I dislike. And I mean, with one kid's going to public school, one going to private school. I mean, this is not how you build an inclusive society. But of course, everything takes time, everything takes money, and as they say, it takes cash to care. But what I can say is that I think the country is blessed, and I'm not saying that because I don't think anybody can be a bigger credit than me when I'm ready. But we have a very good team. I like the fact that we argue a lot because at the end of the day, democracy was founded that people have disagreements, they have discord, they have division, they have dissent, they have all of that stuff. But what it says, through debate, dialogue, discussion, diatribe, you find consensus, you find compromise. You know what I mean? So people out there will say to you that, oh, the government is arguing amongst themselves. They should. This has always been about ideas. This is what politics has always been about, ideas. And for us, it's about changing the narrative. Now we move away from the individual to the issues. We move away from the personalities to the politics, to the policies, to the processes. That's where we need to get to. So it is healthy, it is vibrant for you to have political discourse. Because that is the only way that ideas have come out. You can't sit in a room and someone comes in and like, okay, we're going to do this. And everybody sit around and like, yeah. I like the fact that one person said, nah, not so fast. You know what I mean? I can tell you. So it is part of what it is. But I can tell you what. When we do agree on something, it may not be where I started out originally, but you can go around the table and you can say, you know what? We have now found consensus. You know what I mean? And there are things if we have not found consensus on, we're like, you know what? We leave that and we come back to it. You know what I mean? And I can tell you, Minister Julie is one of the persons more than everything that I wanted when we were putting together this government. Because she brings with her years of experience, a certain amount of balance and wisdom. I mean, I can tell you, cabinet or caucus, you can tell when Ms. Julie is there, it is a big difference. What she brings to the table, I can tell you, is remarkable. And I can tell you the country is very well served. I know she's talking about maybe not running again, but publicly, I'm begging her to just give us one more term at least. I mean, extremely well. I give the Premier a lot of credit because I can tell you, to deal with myself, the likes of Jay, Minister Brian, Minister Bush, I mean, Kathy, I mean, John, I can tell you, it's not easy. I can tell you straight up. I sit down and here's a gift of finding compromise. Here's a gift of maintaining balance within the room. We start with prayer, which is always good. We may argue, but you know what? By the time we leave at the end of the day, we know the country is better well served. You know what I mean? And perfect example, I mean, Monday we had a few issues we didn't get to finish. He's like, you know what? Let's leave that there. Let's come back it later on. You know what I mean? And of course, by Thursday, we're like, okay, we find a little bit more balance. So for us, the incentive is like, oh God, we should have dealt with this Monday, we have to come back Thursday. But again, it takes all of that working together. Because one of the worst things in a country can have is groupthink. You want people to have different ideas. It's that diversity of ideas where you find the best. You know what I mean? within my finance, with every cabinet paper, I literally have a financial implication side of it. And I've said to my colleagues, I have given the financial secretary and his team a blank check. Whatever it is that they write there is to at least ensure that the government is getting non-political advice when it comes on to the finances. That there are times where I can say to you, part of the finance stuff, I may not share exactly the same view, but you know what? The FS and his team, he has assembled a great team. They have years' experience. You know what I mean? That they can say, well, you know, ministers, here's our honest, non-political view. We have the information, and then we make the decision based on information. But we don't try to sit down and steer the information in a particular way. The Attorney General Chambers does exactly the same thing too. Guys, this is it. You have the information, now go make a decision. And that is ultimately what it comes down to. You know, not trying to, you know, so people are arguing, that's healthy. You know, the opposition's out there doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's healthy. You know what I mean? Sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't make sense. But you have to be able to sift through when something is genuine versus something is political. And I can't fault them for what it is that they say or do, for the simple fact they can do what they best do. There's no job description for them. All I can say to them is that they're going about it the wrong way. No, I don't expect my colleagues here to comment. And I can say this coming from the opposition. There are certain things that they're doing I wouldn't do. But you know what? That's their right to do it. You know what I mean? And we will deal with that separately, but not when the civil servants are here, because I don't want to pull them into a political conversation, but we'll deal with that separately for some of the stuff, the misconceptions that they have tried to be putting out inside here. But we know the Cayman people are smarter, so don't pay that much mind. But I just want to thank everyone. And again, to Mr. Lalo and his team, they have done an exceptional job. You know what I mean? And the country is very, very, very well served in them in that regard, and they work very hard too. You know what I mean? So, and for the thousands of people who constantly give the ESO the information, please remember it is not subject to FOI, so no one can come back and see what you sent them. I, as minister, don't even see what you send to ESO. All I get is just a collection of all of the data. And I can tell you, if you see their database, they really don't care about your information at the individual level. They're about collecting the data, and that is how the database is built. So it's not like somebody is prying into what this one is doing. I can tell you, when you see the information, no one got time to do that. No one is that curious. But we need information to make informed decisions. So I just want to thank everyone again, and thank the listening public and everyone for what it is they do, and thank the FS and also the director for the team that they've assembled and for the hard work that they've been doing.
Thanks, Honourable Minister. And Mr. Financial Secretary and Director, perhaps future discussions at your convenience to continue looking at the document. May I, if it's okay, publicly say, thanks, your team has done a great job, as echo what the Minister said, and prayerfully extend, a safe, healthy, and blessed weekend to you, individually, collectively, and to the entire country. So, gentlemen, go enjoy the chocolate.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to pause to take a break. When we come back, we'll have some open lines for the remainder of the show. Please stay tuned.
Cybercrime happens online or through the technology we use every day. Anyone can be a victim of cybercrime, whether you are a young person being bullied or harassed online, or an older person or business who's been scammed out of money or personal data. Cybercrime is an issue that touches all of us. The Cayman Islands government has therefore created an online resource to help keep you cyber safe in an ever-changing world.
In online situations, it is better to be cyber safe than sorry. Learn now to protect yourself against cybercrime. Visit gov.ky/cybersafe.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
back to school. Education is knowing the best back to school specials are at Reflections. Step into savings with up to 50% off selected footwear brands. Buy one pair and get the second pair of back to school shoes at 25% off. Save 50% off on all U.S. Polo handbags and backpacks. Ladies, don't miss the amazing daily deals in the clearance section on special selected women's fashions. Keep it classic with Levi jeans in a wide variety of styles and sizes from 28 to 48. And for the freshest gear, check out the new stock of Nike, Puma, Adidas, Johnny Cotton, and more. The best back-to-school savings are at Reflections. Find them on Shedden Road beside the Mango Tree. Open daily from 9 a.m. till after dark.
We'll be the coolest kids in school.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
JN Money presents the official Jamaica 60th Independence Celebrations on Friday, August 5th at the Lion Center. Featuring from Jamaica, General Degree. Alongside Erica Asai, Leroy Evans, Rose Gold, Dream Chasers dancers, and much more. There will be kids talent contest, best dress, and a dancing contest. Lots of prizes and giveaways, plus the best Jamaican food all day long. Health fair from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. where you can get your PSA, diabetes, and blood pressure checked for free. Music by DJ Bengal and MC Lady T. Don't miss the Jamaica Independence Celebrations Friday, August 5th at the Lion Center, featuring General Degree. Admission is absolutely free. Sponsored by Kingston 62, Best Dressed Chicken, Popeyes, Royal Medical, Kmart Discount Store, People's Choice Grocery, Nathan General, Hot 104.1 FM, Cayman Airways, Cost You Less, Radio Cayman, and Breeze FM.
Subway makes it easy for you to stay on top of your health and wellness goals with our Fresh Fit menu options. Choose from 5 Fresh Fit Subway sandwiches with only 450 calories or less per 6-inch sub. Turkey breast, veggie, oven roasted chicken, black forest ham, sweet onion chicken teriyaki, or make your 6-inch Fresh Fit sub into a salad or wrap prepared with fresh vegetables. For a full menu and nutritional information, visit subway.ky. Subway, eat fresh.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to the Honourable Minister for Finance, the Honourable Financial Secretary, Mr. Ken Jefferson, and the Director of the Economics and Statistics Office, Mr. Dolphus Ladelo, for joining us. For those of you who are interested in the data from the census, go on www.eso.ky and get the information. I know for some of us, and the Honourable Financial Secretary, Mr. Jefferson, alluded to it. Some of us want that information. We want to go and we look at it. If you are, like perhaps when you come to the Constitution and other documents, have a bit of reticence for whatever reason, get the document. If you don't want a hard copy for whatever reason, if you just want to download it and keep it in electronic format, that's fine. Just reference it, take it bit by bit, and look at it. Look at the sections that maybe intrigue you. You may be interested in the agricultural component. It's a new section. You may want to look at the medical aspect, the housing. Just be interested in the population sort of distribution. Which districts are growing and at what rate, and what the population is like relative to male and female, or what's the age sort of distribution. Now that may give you opportunity to ask questions. It may answer some of the questions that you had. It may cause you to realize that, like many of us, we really don't know. And that's the one thing we know, right? We don't know what we don't know. It is a weekend, and you might find that this would be an opportune time to have a look at it. you may have had a perception, and the census may confirm what you were thinking. They may sort of say, not quite right. The Honorable Minister indicated that for some of us, we say, well, it's just, over 71,000 people in the country. But we may think it's significantly more. Well, as he shared, we have those, because we have such a healthy stay over a visitor population, we have those who own properties here, and they may be on island for 3 or 4 months, as the minister shared. So at any time, and especially in the height of the tourism season, not just the traffic woes, but the numbers of people in our supermarkets and in other gatherings, this population may swell to significant numbers. He said, for instance, could be closer to 100,000. Or we know that some tourist destinations, as it were, and in some parts of the world, during that particular tourist season, whether it's during the winter or the summer, that the numbers, for that little area may quadruple. Now, in our scenario, it may not be as noticeable as that. But get the document, have a look at it. If you're a teacher, not to put more on your plate, but is this something that you can discuss with your children in the social studies class? Just perhaps one component. It may be in other classes that you can talk about. The Financial Secretary, Mr. Jefferson, referenced that there's some history in there. The first census of 1802 was just a recorded population of just under 1,000. You fast forward to 2021, and we're 71 plus 1,000 people on island, according to the reported data. And then you may look at it and go, well, the decade of the 70s, from 1970 to 1979, and that period, look at the increase in the population. You may not necessarily be in high school. It could be university. You may want to use it for a paper. You may want to speculate as to why there were certain increases and the like. You may want to go even further and use it as a part of your research thesis to say, well, is this the way to have a sustainable population? Should this happen? What would it mean in terms of the provision of services relative to the infrastructure development? Not just roads, not just housing, school, and health care, but what about the things that a particular population demographic will demand? Aging population might need certain concessions, certain accommodations. What happens if your population in that supposed working sort of defined age range is increasing or decreasing? What if you said, well, we are legally have a retirement age at 60 or 65 or 70, should it be increased? And what are the costs and consequences of so doing? Well, these are the data that sort of help us to have meaningful dialogue with our friends. Sometimes as we look at it, it may help us to be better positioned to make informed comments. Well, have a wonderful and excellent, safe and peaceful weekend as well. To all the wonderful contestants at the Miss Cayman Universe, have an enjoyable evening, and all the best to each of you. You're certainly winners in the eyes of all of us. For those in the audience, have a very, very elegant evening of entertainment and enjoyment. There are many other activities that are going to be unfolding throughout the weekend, and as you go about it, I do so with great joy. I do so with a great sense of respect and responsibility. And where you can, extend a hand to others to help them, but also invite them so that they feel included. Let's look at not just integration, acclimation and assimilation. Let's ensure that as a society, we appreciate the importance of drawing alongside each other and finding not just the safety and the security, but the strength and unity. Thanks for all your comments and calls during the week. I look forward to the continued dialogue come next week. Please start it off your week as you sort of invited to do with Mr. Art for the record on Monday morning, and come back for Talk Today right after the midday news. Have a very, very blessed and safe, wonderful, enjoyable weekend. See you on Monday. Be blessed.
a caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Breitling watches are defined by quality, innovation, and style, and you have the chance to win one in August during Kirk Freeport's 50th anniversary sweepstakes. Each month, lucky shoppers have the chance to win a piece of jewelry or a watch from luxury brands. Every purchase of $100 at any Kirk Freeport store gains you entry into the monthly drawing, so stop in today. Next up, September's prize is the Chopard Happy Dreams bracelet. View terms and conditions on KirkFreeport.com.
Move with us, Cayman. Fidelity Bank is now Proven Bank. We will continue to serve you with the banking services that you've come to rely on, while moving you to another level of banking experience that you deserve. As members of the Proven Group, Proven Bank keeps your life and money moving. Learn about the Proven difference yourself at provenbank.com. Move with us. We are Proven.
The Department of Agriculture would like to advise the community that their warehouse, sales office, and plant nursery on Agricola Drive in Lower Valley will now be open 6 days per week, Monday to Friday, 8:15 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For more information, call 947-3090 or visit their Facebook or Instagram page at Agriculture Cayman.
Subway's giving you flavor around the clock with the new Chicken Squad sandwich options. Try the classic chicken and bacon ranch, the sweet and savory barbecue chicken, or the chicken cordon bleu. 3 new appetizing and delicious sub options that you can also make into a wrap. The Chicken Squad is available at Subway for only a limited time. Subway, giving you something to cluck about.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
District to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman.